Are you looking for a podcast where you can hear from real people regarding their real dental drama? If so, then you've come to the right place. Join hosts Bethany Petty and Dr. Rena Kuba as we dive into the solutions we've created and the mistakes we've made while managing dental drama. Let's get started. All right, so I roped you in for one more because you mentioned something in the last episode that I thought would be super helpful, which is you mentioned this idea of kind of preparing for the recession, that practice owners should be thinking about that and planning for that. And so in the moment, I kind of called it recession-proofing your practice, and I wanted to be able to get your thoughts on, okay, last episode you talked about we're essentially in this for the next really couple years. We need to plan on a recession, intense, and then it'll kind of stay that way probably for several years.
It could be mild, it could be intense. It really could be either way.
Yeah. So ultimately, if practice owners, dentists in particular, are looking at that recession, I know historically discretionary spending just kind of comes to a halt, and unfortunately dental is still often included with discretionary spending.
All healthcare, really.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, you saw that. When I say healthcare, I'm talking about like people don't go get their checkups and stuff like that.
They kind of put that off.
Right. You saw it in 2008. Like if you look at recessions and you look at after recessions, the health of people, like, things increase because they didn't go get checked.
Okay. I didn't realize that hit. Not only just dental, but
right.
medical.
A lot of people don't know that their checkups are, like, a lot of times those checkups are free with your insurance. But what happens in recessions, you don't have a job and you don't have insurance. Yeah. And so that checkup is no longer free.
So you stop going.
You don't go.
Money that you don't spend.
Money you don't want to spend. You would rather spend it on Netflix.
Well, it's more enjoyable than getting felt up, right?
100%.
Well, who wants to pay for that? You paused way too long on that. Okay, so this idea of recession-proofing your practice. So when you say something like business owners need to prepare for a recession, what are some things that you're thinking of, especially for dental?
Okay, so the first thing, I think we talked about this last time. The first thing that comes to mind is finding anything out there that is revenue that you're not used to getting, or like you should be getting, like the insurance. Like, I know when you see practice audits, you see a lot of practices that have X amount in insurance. Are we allowed to use your dad?
Sure.
Okay, so like when you took over that practice, right, a long time ago, like the first thing you noticed in the office was like $1 billion in insurance that was just unclaimed, right? And y'all went out and got that. It wasn't that much, but it was a lot of money, right?
It was a lot of money, yeah.
And I bet you that's par.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I think so. And especially, I think even since I was the primary one in charge of that, insurance has gotten so creative with keeping money for longer. And I think it's the name of their game. I mean, they make money off of the money that they have.
Right. Wait you out.
Yeah.
Then you
reach that limit where they're not going to pay anymore.
Right.
So I think it's become a harder game to fight, unfortunately. And I think a lot of dental offices, that's not their priority.
Right.
And so I think that's a really valid point of there could be services that have been rendered, money that is technically owed from insurance that somebody either isn't fighting or doesn't have the knowledge to fight that battle well. So I think that would be a really good area to focus.
Right. And then what percentage of dentists don't use insurance? They don't accept it?
Very small percentage, actually. I mean, there's
because what do you guys call it, collections or whatever? Like, what are those balances like, just on an average?
So normally AR, I mean, so there's insurance AR, which I've seen collectively growing in every practice that I work with. The balances that insurance owes are staying on longer and are growing. So we normally break it down by like the 30 to 60 day category, 60 to 90 day category, and 90 plus. It used to be with insurance in particular that you would have very few roll over to that 30 to 60 day category. And then the only thing that was rolling over to 90 was like long-term claims like orthodontic claims, things that they're paying, the insurance is paying out over the year rather than when the service is rendered. Mm-hmm. And so I've seen that go up substantially. Like it's very common in any audit that I pull now for there to be a much more substantial 30 to 60 day. And oftentimes there's 60 to 90 day right. and 90 plus.
And you know why, right? I mean, also they want to keep money, but they also lost employees.
Yes, exactly.
So you have, Betty or Bob, and where they were working usually, one region area, and now they're like a state.
Yeah. No, you're right. And also because of the loss of employees, we're getting new employees in, and that's such a hard thing to train right. on, or to dedicate a whole person to that is like, well, they need to be able to do that and check patients in and check patients out because we have fewer people.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a combination of insurance being the way they are.
And you don't have that bulldog.
Yeah. So I think that's a great area to focus on just what are you owed, getting creative with how are we fighting these insurance claims, who's on them, who's watching those reports, and what are we doing about it when it gets out of hand. Dr. Kuba, who's on here oftentimes, she just noticed that her 30 to 60 category on insurance tripled.
Okay.
And she's got a person dedicated 100% to insurance AR. And insurance and patient AR. And so she was immediately on the phone with her like, hey, what's going on? To your point, we had a lady that was helping her with a part of her job, insurance verification, left and went on maternity leave. Well, nobody else knew how to do the insurance AR. And so her remote AR person had taken back on insurance verification. Well, that tripped up all of her numbers because she had less time to focus on right. the AR. So I think that's a really good point.
And let's just use, if you can use we won't use real names. So we'll say Dr. Doom here because that's, your dad's my dentist. Let's still look at it that way. So, but I love him. I love you, Dr. Jones. But let's say, real scenario. What is that number? What's a number you've seen in that collection pot?
It's usually a percentage that I would recommend. So 1% of the annual.
Right, but what's on the ledger? Like,
oh, as far as like actual numbers?
Because I want to say, so like you say you're paying Sally $20 an hour.
Yeah.
And you put her on there.
Yeah.
And you look at her paycheck versus what she can pull in.
Oh, yeah. I would say easily in that depending upon the size of the practice, but easily in the 30 to 60 category, you're looking at $10,000 to $20,000.
Right. Okay.
60 to 90, you're looking at least $7,000 to $8,000. Now, that's not what I recommend.
Right.
That's what I see.
And so if Sally at Dr. Doom's office, how long does it take her to get that under control? Like if she was just to dedicate, train herself, get it done. Oh,
I think she could rectify it in 45 to 60 days.
Oh my gosh. So like, let's say it's $7,000.
That we had to pay.
Yeah. That's out there.
Yeah.
But you only paid Sally what for that?
For those, let's say 2 months with payroll taxes and everything, you would probably come out net even.
Yeah.
For that, and that's $7,000, which most practices have.
Right. Net even, right?
A good bit more.
So you paid for her salary basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whereas before, it's just sitting there, and you're still paying Sally $7,000.
Exactly.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mathematically, it doesn't make.
Yeah, you just go after it.
Yeah.
You should be doing it anyway, but let's say now you got to find it because you're going to have less people coming in.
Well, I think it's one of those areas where, yes, we should be doing it anyway, but knowing, based on last episode, we're heading into that recession pretty aggressively.
Yeah.
This is one of those areas that it just doesn't make sense not to focus on.
Right. And to be honest, one thing we didn't talk about last one, which we should have, because I'm a terrible teacher, is that cash is king right now. Whereas before, debt was king. Debt was king because it was 0.025%, right? It
basically
was
free.
Free money, right? Mm-hmm. To us, it was like 2 or 3%. But to the banks, it was free money, so they wanted to give it out. They're not giving it out now. Mm-hmm. And so now you're the bank, and cash is king. So anywhere you can accumulate cash and basically make a war chest, it's going to be the best thing for you because cash is king. So if you're thinking about this summer and you're thinking about doing some type of retreat or something, like I would honestly think twice about it, or find a cheaper version.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to go in recession and then treat your employees bad either. You want to be able to treat them well, but you may have to get creative because I definitely think because cash will be king. Cash will be king over the next 18 months. Easy.
Well, then that to me creates a real simple rule of, first of all, go after the cash that you're owed, first and foremost, especially from insurance. And then second of all, preserve as much cash as possible.
Right, yeah.
So that's where cut.
That's what the whole economy's doing. The whole economy will be preserving. People are cutting people on jobs because they're preserving. Everybody else is doing it. And if you're still going full steam how you are, you could or could not be in trouble. Like, I mean, it just depends on your area. But, like, you might get to a point to where you're not making bills and you're super stressed. You may be there now. Like, a dentist may be there now where they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Her name's Bethany. She can help you. Shameless plug.
Thanks for that plug.
But, so, there may be...
Well, and, I think what's interesting, even as you're saying that, my coming out of this mindset from the pandemic, the way that you're talking is exactly the way all of my clients were talking. And I know you walked with me through that time. Incredibly stressful because every client that I was talking with over the phone was like, what in the world am I going to do? I'm having to be shut down for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever. And it's this like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to survive. And then all this government money came in, right? And so I guess I would caution listeners that as we talk about this, like we're heading into this recession, right? Like you gotta be prepared, spend differently than you always have. I think we've got to be careful not to have this little thought at the back of your mind, like the government will save me again.
Because they're not.
Yeah. Because
they're not going to help you. They'll help banks. They'll help things that help the whole economy. I know it doesn't sound fair, and people get really mad at it. We bailed out the banks in 2008 or whatever, but that's who makes the whole economy go, right? So the U.S. banks, the Bank of America's out there, the ones that are doing the lending to houses, to corporations.
Like we have to have them.
Like we have to have them because they not only do they supply us with the money for our homes, but they also supply people for their jobs. I mean, like that's why 2008 was so devastating because it took out the plumber. Like the plumber is like recession proof. Like it took out the plumber. So like, so you just got to be.
Yeah, we can't hang on to this hope.
And I would even say, it's funny that you say that. Like, let's say the pandemic came out of nowhere, right? We were just hanging out. We were on vacation, I think, in March, and just like, we went there on Sunday, and by Wednesday, we're like, we got to go home, because everybody's going to become zombies. I don't know what's going to happen. But like, the thing about the pandemic, if you knew the pandemic's coming, how would you change?
Right.
Like, if you can get in your mindset now, hey, there's a pandemic coming, and it's not going to last 45 days. It's not going to last, it's probably going to hit you for a good solid 6 months to a year. How would you prepare for that time?
Yeah, I think that's a good, almost having a pandemic mindset, a pre-pandemic mindset.
Pre-pandemic, yeah. Like if you could be a future holder, like if you were thrown back to 2019 and tell yourself or 18, hey, it's going to be really bad in 2020, prepare. What would you do?
Yeah. No, I think that's really good. And again, I think the idea of just conserving as much as possible, we're conserving. We're starting to live differently today, even though we're not being hit fully smack in the face yet with the recession or the impact of that, but living as if any day now,
right,
that will change. And I think that's an important mindset.
Yeah.
Okay, so far for recession proofing, we've got go after money that's owed to you. You need to be having somebody that knows how to tackle bulldog to get that insurance money. Save. Spend differently. Spend as if we were about to hit a pandemic, which I think is a really good takeaway. And then you talk a lot about kind of this residual income. How can you kind of get this, I think you call it mailbox money,
yep.
Whatever. So how can what's one way that the dental field could, consume that mindset?
See, I don't know a lot about the dental field, but anything that they can offer that would be a monthly thing for a patient. I don't know.
Well, so what about...
last time it was like... I'm sorry, but one time it was like, everybody was like, come get your teeth cleaned, we'll give you free whitening. No one cared about that.
Right.
Right? I mean, like, I'm sorry, dentists out there, if that hurts your feelings.
For those of you that do it.
And those of you who still do it, it's not to me an insult. I'm talking to you from the people out outside the dental field. Like, I remember seeing that, though. I remember seeing that a lot to get people back in dentists. It was like, get a free whitening. Like,
Yeah.
I got my toothpaste that says it's whitening.
Yeah.
Right? I know that people don't like that, but that's what they do.
Yes. Well, and even that, I mean, I think getting people back into the dental office during a recession is going to be harder. And I think, to your point, if they've lost their jobs or even just lost their benefits, I know in the 3 years since the pandemic, a lot of employers have cut benefits to save, like you said, cash is king. They're saving money. And so they've cut dental benefits or they've cut medical benefits. And so I've seen a lot of patients coming into the dental office that either previously had dental insurance and either it's not being offered more or they've opted out of it because they needed that extra money in their living paycheck.
Right.
And so I think one of the areas where we could potentially create that mailbox money is membership plans. So a lot of offices will have like a, VIP plan or a membership plan where your cleanings are covered. Maybe you get a percentage off treatment.
Genius. Yeah, what are some things they can offer that are cheap to you?
Right.
Production-wise.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I mean, even if breaking even on it, you may get something else out of it, like a cat, but hey, I see you need a
crown or
right.
Yeah.
Maybe something higher production out of it.
Yeah. Well, and maybe part of this prepping for recession is offering that more on a monthly payment plan. So a lot of the ones that offer it now, you pay in full, right? So you pay, your $500 for the year, and that's going to cover your 2 cleanings, an emergency exam, and 10% off treatment, for example. But maybe if cash is king and it's going to be hard for somebody to scrounge up $500, maybe we take more of the risk and have that become a recurrent payment to help the patient out.
Yeah.
And then it's...
As long as they know it's a risk, but I mean, like...
Yeah.
You guys think about scenarios. Like, you can either have Stephanie come in or Stephanie not come in.
Right.
Like, maybe Stephanie comes in for the first 2 cleanings and she's paid an X amount and you lost. But maybe she continues.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, and I mean, bottom line, if she didn't come in, there would have been no income.
No income, period.
Yeah. So it's almost getting out of that mindset of I've got to recoup 100%
right.
of that and go, am I okay with 80%?
Yeah. 50% is better than 0%.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So maybe if a dental practice doesn't have a plan like that in place, I would say over the last year, 18 months, I've been telling my clients to think about that more just because I've been seeing the shift with patients losing insurance. And so in the dental field, we have a tendency to lose the patient altogether because they're just not willing to pay for it. So I think come up with a membership plan and then potentially consider, maybe they do a down payment and the rest is broken up monthly, but maybe various ways to pay for it so that we can make it palatable for somebody that's struggling anyway due to the recession.
Right. And another one I thought about is a good CPA. It may be upfront costs a lot, but they probably can save you more. And one of the things I think about, both these, put all these together, like in Arkansas, in your dad's area in 2005, they were actually hit earlier. For a lot of different reasons, but there was some, I guess the last time was paper plant because that's where it was, right?
Yeah.
And so you had some shutoffs before, right? And your dad was willing to be like, I'm out. Like, this is not working. Or and so, or it was just really tough on them. And the thought was, let's just close the doors, or at least enter there, right? But they just didn't know all that was available to them. And that's one of the reasons you came in and helped them out. But your business structure by itself is worth a lot of money. And there are a lot of different tax avenues that you can go after to raise that money. I think I told you about this, like when you're looking back on it, like if your dad or mom, that they could, like each kid you have is $12,500, right? $12,500. You can get that back as a tax break. Basically employing them, and then you just charge them for room and board. So you know what I'm saying? And so you retain that money. And so there are different ways to do that. And so keeping your business, like it may get tough and you may have to white knuckle it, but that is probably your best asset that you have, just for the tax shelter alone, for things that you can do tax-wise, even on a loss. So that would be one. Like
getting a really good CPA on your
because they can
team.
see because it's just there are things out there that can help you, especially if your revenue drops. There are programs out there for small businesses because it was I think it was the first CARES Act that was passed. But basically, when you lose X amount of, if you keep your employees and you lose X amount of revenue or something, the government will actually give you a tax break on your the taxes you pay on your employees. What's it called? The
payroll taxes.
Payroll taxes. Yeah, I mean, there's free money out there, and if you're not looking at a good CPA, or at least ask your CPA, hey, am I eligible for this? And they may say no. You may need to see a second opinion and pay whatever $500 to get that second opinion.
Right.
Because not all CPAs are the same. Not all trained the same. I know you have. There's some really good ones out there that right, and your clients use. So I would definitely
get one on board now.
Yeah, because if you pay, let's say you pay a CPA $8,000 for the year. That sounds like a lot. Is that normal? Okay, let's say it's $8,000. Let's say it's $8,000, but they save you $50,000-$60,000.
Yeah,
they paid for themselves over a lot.
Yeah,
and if you get, or there are some really good for dentists out there that not only do CPA, they do financial advising, personal financial advising. They're going to help you understand how to make cash king, and they'll look at your finances and that's part of their service. So, and that $8,000, not have they improved your business, they've improved your personal finances. And so, as you're coming in recession, I know it sounds funny. Well, you just said cash is king. Why would I spend money? Because you just netted $42,000.
Yeah.
Like that's why. Because you've netted more money than what you did.
Well, and I would say, kind of in that same vein, is don't stop working on behalf of your practice. So,
right. Yeah.
Thinking things like, we tend to kind of tighten the belt with when we hit tough times. We're like, oh, we got to cut marketing. We got to cut these costs that seem kind of extra. Like, oh, I can't quit buying syringes, but I can stop buying the local magazine that I put my ad in every month.
Right.
And I would say maybe you can cut the local magazine, but you need to replace it with something that's less expensive and still marketing your business in the community, because the last thing that we need to do is just cut all forms of trying to get new patients when we know we're going to lose them in this recession.
So you lose. It's always a weird mindset, because you're losing people aren't coming in, and you're feeling that pinch, and your first thing is to freaking cut off your vision. Like, now no one can see you. Like, you don't want to do that. You want to still be seen. And I guess that would be another point, right? What areas in these communities are hit hardest, or whether that's schools or whether that's your local library or whatever? Like, there are cheap things you can do to help where people think, well, that's amazing. So you can go buy a bunch of pencils or pens or markers or whatever, donate them to the school, make it visible, and say you gave school supplies. Yeah. And they're going to be like, oh, they care. And you do care. Like, they do. Like, no dentist is in this because they just want to be billionaires, right? Right. They would become orthodontists.
Shout out to all you orthos out there who are probably laughing in your face right now.
But yeah, they genuinely care about their people. Yes. So that needs to be seen.
I think, to your point, though, it can take something simple to have visibility. So if your ad in the local, magazine is $1,000 a month, and you're thinking, I can't afford that, I would understand that. But man, can we replace that a couple of months at the beginning of school with pencils and expo markers donated to the local school? Well, wow, that cost us at best $300-$400. We put that out on social media. We make sure to make a big to-do of it when we show up at the school with all that. And that gives us potentially just as much visibility as the $1,000 a month would have.
I'll give you one easier. So if you have a local, like we're from Benton, or you have Salina here in Texas, big football town. Like, if you had if you told the team that you would run an ad, and usually those ads cost $1,000 for the season or something like that. But also, in return, you all wanted to do a player of the game, or a family, or honor a family of the game, whatever. And you did like at halftime, you got to present like, a gift certificate to somewhere, $100, $200, $250, whatever. And you look at the end of the row, you spent, for the whole season, you spent about, $3,000. But you've been seen by hundreds of people in your community as donating. And so when you're in recession and people feel bad about themselves and they see something good, something clicks in their brain that, hey, that's something good.
Yeah,
I want to be part of that. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a good, just getting creative with something as simple as that. I mean, the visibility would be massive.
Right.
Or you mentioned ortho earlier, no better place to be than at a junior high football field. That's your target market. And so being, having a scholarship fund that you put together, and you receive all these applicants. There's all this pre-marketing that goes into place to register for this scholarship fund.
Right.
I mean, it could be a $2,000 or $3,000 scholarship that you give every year,
or just books.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't know. There's just lots of things that they can do where they're visible and they're seen by hundreds of people. Yeah. They're parents want those scholarships. And so when you get that visibility for so cheap, 1,000 people, you're almost getting a TV ad for cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's important, talking about recession proofing, not to, like you said, don't cut off your visibility. This is not a time to tighten the belt buckle and not do anything. It may be a time to reorient and figure out, am I spending money that maybe isn't giving me a return, and how can I think a little bit more creatively about that?
I wonder how long it took people to stop paying Yellow Pages for their ads.
Maybe there's some people that still do. Shouldn't talk badly about it, okay?
Sorry.
But yes, exactly. Don't be behind the 8 ball and think, oh, I've just got to grit my teeth and bear it through this. Right. If the money's not there, number one, that goes, and we've got to replace it with something.
Yeah.
And then I would say number 2, if you're not getting that return, then what can we do differently?
Yeah. How do you stretch that dollar?
And then I would say the last thing is probably that I'm thinking about is just the importance of patient retention. Just like we've got somebody focused on the insurance accounts and money and all of that, we need to have somebody that's dedicated to pursuing those patients and making sure that they're still, being pursued for their dental work.
If you're having a family of the week or whatever for football games, you probably need to have a patient of the week too. You can't. It's always frustrating when you have your cell phone. We used to do cell phone contracts, and you did yours, and they come out the very next week, and it's way cheaper and better, but you're stuck. It's so angry. It makes me so mad. So if you're doing those things, you definitely need to do it in your practice.
Yeah, do the internal side of it.
So that helps retention, and I think the biggest thing for retention, which we talk about all the time through different scenarios, because we ask our kids scenarios and stuff, is even in these times, you gotta take care of your employees, especially your rock stars. You gotta take care of them, even with small gestures of kindness. I know one of the things that your dad did a lot. I hope you don't get mad at me or Miss Debbie, but one of the things your dad did a lot was he would just slide cash, knowing that they needed it. Just slid them some cash, and it would help them groceries or whatever. That builds loyalty.
Yeah.
If you know your people. So in Frisco ISD, one of our things know your children by name and need. All right, and one of the things I do in my class is I try to know them by need. It's really important to me, and I think that's why they like me. And I'm easy. I don't know which one it is, but if you know them by name and need, if you know their need, your employees, if you know their need, then that will go a lot building loyalty. And so when that time for a raise comes, and they may be a little bit more understanding
that you can't give one.
But you know what? When I was at my wits' end, I didn't know what I was going to do with my groceries. He gave me $200. It got me through for my kid's birthday, whatever.
That means something.
Right. And then when you look at your overall bottom line, how much did that actually hurt you?
Right. So be be smart, be as wise as you can with your spending, but don't cut back on your visibility. Don't cut back on taking care of your rock stars.
Right. Yeah.
Don't let it be seen there.
Yeah. Your team is your rock star. Yeah. Don't take care. Yeah. Because patient retention, the people they see is not the dentist. I mean, like if a dentist is there, what percentage of the time do they see the dentist versus the people who work for you?
Oh yeah, they're 60-70% of the time with somebody else besides the dentist.
If you lose those people, and you have to retrain other people, and I get it, that happens. You lose people to other people, that happens. I'm not, but in this time when you're coming up, you want to be as, what is it called when your brain's not working?
Philanthropic or
yeah, do that. No, like
generous.
No.
I'm missing the mark. I don't know where it's going.
Consistent. You want the patients to be consistent. You want to see consistency, like the same person. You don't want to have different people throughout the time. Like you see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. You want your staff to be consistent so that your patients can see the same consistency.
That goes to patient retention.
And the way you do that is by being philanthropic and generous with your staff.
Again, just stretching that dollar. Like in the long run, how bad does this hurt me? Again, cash is king. You don't want to be like doling out crazy person, but you want to be able to be taking care of people.
Well, and you want to be seen as generous by your staff, as generous as you can be. One of the things, especially heading into this recession, that I think is super important for practice owners to think about is if you're complaining about, overhead expenses, oh my gosh, it's just so hard. It's so hard. I can't afford anything. Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't afford your raise because of all this. But look at my new car.
Right.
Or, oh my gosh, we got to go on this glorious vacation, to Costa Rica for 10 days. Your staff is going to grow bitter about that. And so I think we've got to be careful that, hey, maybe we are still doing well. And I think that goes back to your point, like spend carefully. So maybe you're not buying that new car. Maybe you wait on that. If you're in a pre-pandemic mindset, you wait.
If your practice is that important to you, like if you're listening to this because you want to improve your practice and your practice is that important to you, like not buying a car for the next 18 months is not going to kill you. Right. If it means showing your patience and showing your... That was me. Showing your patients or showing your employees, team, that you're in this pandemic too. Yeah. Like you're in it with them. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's important. And I think that is probably one of the key messages going into this recession, especially if people have had a great CPA and they've planned for this. They're prepared for this. They've got a great savings account. They're ready to go for this. Then I think it can be easy to continue to live as if this isn't happening. Right. But if that's the case, then be just as generous to your staff as you are to yourself, or cut back for yourself, and find little pockets of generosity for your staff. Because you're in a recession, you're not. Yeah. Like if you're a dentist and you care about your practice, and your staff is in recession, you're in recession. And if you're not, if you've done well and you got that, you got to be equal. I mean, I know that sounds crazy. You're the doctor, you went there, but you're not going anywhere without your team. Yeah. The good team too. Yeah. All right. I feel like we've given lots of good tips for recession proofing the practice. Thanks for hanging out with me for a couple episodes. Anytime. It was great.
Thanks for joining the conversation today. We hope that you are comforted in knowing that you are not alone. But we also hope that you're walking away with some really great tips and tricks to try in your practice. We value your feedback, so please take a few moments to rate and review the podcast. Finally, we want to make sure that we're covering the topics that matter to you. So track us down on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know what topics you want us to cover. As always, please know that we are rooting for you today as you manage your dental drama.